Dawn came to Earth on the 7th day of the invasion. In military bases around the world, soldiers watched the clock. Scientists stood by their quantum disruptors, fingers on activation switches. Pilots sat in their cockpits, engines warm, ready to launch. General Marcus Hayes stood in the Pentagon Command Center. Around him, screens showed military positions across the planet. Everything was ready. Every unit was in position. This was humanity's best chance to turn the war around. "All stations report ready, sir," Colonel Danny Price said. Marcus looked at the clock. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. "Activate the disruptors," he ordered. "All units begin Operation Payback." In 100 locations simultaneously, the quantum disruptors came online. The devices hummed with power as they generated massive interference in the quantum field that connected all Zeltharian technology. On his flagship in orbit, Commander Vexthor was reviewing the morning reports when his screens went dark. Every display, every system, every connection. "What is happening?" he demanded. Kirix frantically worked his controls, but nothing responded. "Commander, all quantum communications are down. Shields are failing. Weapons are offline. We are blind." "How? What did they do?" "I do not know. Some kind of interference. It is jamming our entire network." Down on the ground, Zeltharian soldiers suddenly found their armor glitching, their weapons losing power, their coordination vanishing. They could not talk to each other. They could not call for support. They could not even see where their fellow soldiers were positioned, and that was when humanity attacked with everything they had. Lieutenant Kevin Brooks was the first pilot in the air over Washington. His squadron had been waiting for this moment. The alien ships that had been untouchable for days now hung in the sky with flickering shields and dark weapons. "All squadrons, this is Hawk 7. The aliens are vulnerable. Hit them now. Hit them hard. Make every shot count." His missile streaked toward an alien fighter and struck it directly in the cockpit. The ship exploded in a ball of fire. Around him, dozens of other fighters engaged. Missiles found their targets. Guns chewed through armor that no longer had shields to protect it. 10 alien ships went down in the first minute. 20 in the first 5 minutes. The sky over Washington filled with burning wreckage. In the Pacific Ocean, Captain Greg Turner commanded the USS Nevada, a nuclear submarine that had been hunting the alien landing ships for days. With the alien sensors blind, his submarine surfaced within missile range. "Fire all tubes," Greg ordered. 24 Tomahawk missiles launched from the submarine. They flew low over the water, too fast for the confused aliens to track. They struck the landing ships in rapid succession. Massive explosions tore through the alien vessels. One ship broke in half and sank. Another lost power and began drifting out to sea. A third tried to take off but crashed into the ocean when its engines failed. "Reload and fire again," Greg said calmly. "We end this now." On the ground, the counterattack was even more devastating. Zeltharian soldiers who had been hunting humans through city streets suddenly found themselves being hunted. Without their shields, their armor was still tough but no longer invincible. Without their coordination, their perfect tactics fell apart. Sergeant Lisa Grant led her squad out of the tunnels beneath Seattle. For days they had been running and hiding. Now they advanced through the streets openly, weapons ready. A Zeltharian patrol stumbled around a corner, their sensors dark, their communications dead. They saw Lisa's squad and raised their weapons, but they were too slow. Human reflexes, honed by evolution and desperation, were faster. Lisa's team fired first. The aliens went down before they could shoot back. "Keep moving," Lisa ordered. "Find more targets. Show them what happens when they invade our home." All across the city, the same scene repeated. Human soldiers emerged from hiding. They attacked alien positions that had seemed secure. They overran bases that had been thought impregnable. The aliens tried to fight back, but without their technology advantage. They were just soldiers in a foreign land against an enemy that knew every street and building. In orbit, the situation was even worse for the Zeltharians. The International Space Station had been quietly armed over the past week, with weapons salvaged from destroyed alien fighters. Commander Lee Patterson, a former astronaut, now led Earth's first space combat team. "Target the nearest dreadnought," Lee ordered. "We only get one shot at this." "Make it count," the captured alien plasma cannon charged. It was strange using enemy weapons against them, but Lee was not concerned about irony. He was concerned about survival. Fire. The plasma bolt crossed the distance in seconds. It struck the Zeltharian dreadnought's main reactor. which was no longer protected by shields. The explosion was visible from the ground, a new sun blooming in space. The blast took out 2 other alien ships that were too close to the dreadnought. Debris rained down into the atmosphere, burning up in streaks of light. "We just destroyed 3 capital ships with 1 shot," someone said in amazement. "Then let's find another target," Lee replied. Commander Vexthor felt his flagship shudder as nearby explosions rocked the space around him. He had lost contact with half his fleet. His ground forces were being slaughtered. His perfect invasion had turned into a complete disaster. "Get the quantum systems back online," he ordered desperately. "We are trying, Commander. Whatever the humans are doing, it is incredibly sophisticated. They are not just jamming us. They are rewriting the quantum frequencies in real time, adapting to our countermeasures. That is impossible. They do not have that technology." "They do now," Carrick said grimly. "They must have studied our captured equipment. They learned how we communicate and found a way to break it." Vexthor realized the terrible truth. The humans had not just defended themselves. They had studied their enemy. They had learned. They had adapted. And now they were using that knowledge to tear the Zeltharian fleet apart. On Earth, the battle raged for 6 more hours. By midday, the aliens had lost most of their ground forces. Their air superiority was gone. Their ships were falling from the sky. In Chicago, Private Chris Jenkins held a defensive position with 3 other soldiers. They had almost no ammunition left. They were exhausted. But when an alien patrol tried to push through their sector, Chris stood his ground. He fired until his rifle clicked empty. Then he picked up rocks and threw them. Then he charged the nearest alien with nothing but his hands and his determination not to let them pass. The alien soldiers, already demoralized and confused, broke and ran. They had never encountered an enemy like this. An enemy that refused to quit no matter what. An enemy that fought with pure stubborn will when weapons ran out. A drone captured the image of Chris, bloody and exhausted, standing over a retreating alien squad. That image spread across the internet within minutes. It became a symbol of human resistance, not because Chris was a great warrior, but because he represented what every human felt. No surrender, no retreat, no giving up. By evening, General Marcus Hayes received reports from around the world. The alien forces were in full retreat. Their ground troops were surrendering or fleeing. Their ships were trying to reach orbit and escape. President Catherine Wells appeared on every screen in the command center. "General, what is our status?" "We won, Madam President," Marcus said, and for the first time in a week he allowed himself to smile. "The aliens are retreating. Earth is ours, but the victory came with a heavy cost. Cities lay in ruins. Millions had died. The world would take years to rebuild, and somewhere out in space the Zeltharian Empire still existed. They had lost this battle, but they were still a vast interstellar power. They will come back," Catherine said quietly. "Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not next year. But they will come back." "Then we need to be ready," Marcus replied. "We have their technology now. We have their ships. We know they can be beaten. We need to make sure Earth is never this vulnerable again." Commander Vexthor gave the order he never thought he would give. "All remaining ships retreat to the outer system. Prepare for jump to home space. This invasion is over." As his flagship turned away from Earth, Vexthor looked one last time at the blue planet below. He had underestimated the humans. He had thought their primitive technology made them weak. He had not understood that technology was just a tool. The real weapon was the mind wielding it, and human minds were sharp, adaptable, and utterly ruthless when defending their home. "What will you report to the Empire?" Carrick asked. "The truth," Vexthor said, "that we attacked a world of warriors, and we lost." The alien ships hammered New York City with plasma fire. Buildings that had stood for over a century melted like candles. The streets filled with smoke and debris. People ran for shelter, but many did not make it. Lieutenant Kevin Brooks flew his fighter through the chaos above Manhattan. He had tried everything. His missiles bounced off the alien shields. His guns did nothing. He was running out of options and running low on fuel. Then he noticed something. When an alien ship fired its plasma cannon, there was a brief flash across its shield. Just for a split second, the blue glow of the defensive barrier flickered. It was barely noticeable, but Kevin had trained his whole life to notice small details in combat. He watched carefully. Another alien fighter fired. There it was again. The shield flickered right as the weapon discharged. A tiny window of vulnerability. Kevin grabbed his radio. "All units, this is Hawk 7. I've found something." The shields drop when they fire. "You've got maybe half a second. Time your shots right after they shoot." "Half a second?" Another pilot responded. "That's impossible." "No," Kevin said calmly. "That's difficult. We've done difficult before." He proved it a moment later. An alien fighter swooped past him, charging its weapon. Kevin waited. The alien fired at a building below. The shield flickered. Kevin fired his missile. The missile struck the alien ship directly in its engine section. The fighter spun out of control and crashed into the Hudson River. An explosion sent water hundreds of feet into the air. Hawk 7. "That was incredible," someone said over the radio. "That was luck," Kevin replied. "Now let's make it skill. Everyone watch for the flicker. Time it right. We can do this." The human pilots adapted quickly. They had to. Survival depended on it. They learned to anticipate when the aliens would fire. They coordinated attacks, so multiple fighters hit the same target during its vulnerable moment. They used the city itself as cover, forcing the aliens to expose themselves. Within an hour, 20 alien fighters had fallen over New York. The Zeltharians pulled back to regroup. They had never encountered resistance like this. In Mumbai, the battle took a different form. The alien dropships came in low, trying to land ground troops in the streets. They thought getting soldiers on the ground would be easy. Captain Priya Sharma commanded an anti-aircraft battery on the outskirts of the city. Her weapons were railguns designed to shoot down hypersonic missiles. They fired metal slugs at incredible speeds using magnetic acceleration. "Wait until they commit to landing," Priya ordered her crew. "Let them think they're safe." 6 alien dropships descended toward an open area near the port. Their shields were strong. Their armor was thick. They had landed on 47 other worlds without problems. "Now," Priya said quietly. The railguns fired. The metal slugs moved so fast they were invisible. They hit the dropships before the alien pilots could react. The shields tried to stop them but failed. The slugs were too fast, too dense, too powerful. 3 dropships exploded in midair. Another crashed into the harbor. The remaining 2 pulled up hard, abandoning their landing attempt. "Reload," Priya ordered. "They'll be more careful now." But we showed them something important. We can hurt them. All across Earth, similar scenes played out. In London, pilots used fog and clouds to hide their approach, striking from above before vanishing. In Sydney, naval ships coordinated their fire, overwhelming alien shields through sheer volume. In Mexico City, soldiers set up ambush points, hitting alien fighters as they flew low between buildings. The humans were learning fast. And they were teaching each other even faster. Videos of successful tactics spread across the internet within minutes. A pilot in Japan watched how someone in Brazil took down an alien ship and tried the same method. A soldier in Canada saw footage from Egypt and adapted it to his situation. The Zeltharians had better technology, but humans had something more powerful. They had billions of minds working on the same problem, sharing solutions instantly, adapting and evolving their tactics in real time. Commander Vexathor watched his casualty reports climb. 40 fighters lost, 60, 80. His ground forces had not even engaged yet, and already he was bleeding ships faster than any campaign in Zeltharian history. "This is not possible," he said to Kirix. "Their technology is primitive. Their weapons are weak. How are they doing this?" Kirix pulled up combat footage. It showed a human pilot pulling an impossibly tight turn, his aircraft straining under forces that should have torn it apart. The pilot's face was visible in the cockpit camera. He was grimacing in pain from the G-forces, but his hands were steady on the controls. He threaded his missile through a gap in the alien formation that was barely wider than his weapon itself. "They are precise," Kirix said. "More precise than our computers. And they do not hesitate. Watch this." Another video showed a human soldier standing on the roof of a building. An alien fighter swooped toward him, plasma cannon charging. The soldier raised a shoulder-fired missile. He should have run. He should have taken cover. Instead, he waited until the last possible moment, fired, and then dove off the roof into a safety net below. The missile struck the alien fighter's cockpit. Both the soldier and the alien crashed, but the soldier survived. "They trade their lives for ours willingly," Kirix continued. "They take insane risks, and somehow many of them survive those risks. Vexthor realized the truth. Humans were not just defending their planet. They were hunting his forces. Every pilot was a predator. Every soldier was a threat. They had evolved on a world where they had to hunt to survive, where they competed with other predators, where weakness meant death. The Zeltharians had evolved on a peaceful world. They had developed technology to overcome challenges. Humans had developed skills, instincts, an almost supernatural ability to hit targets under impossible conditions. Deploy the ground forces, Vexthor ordered. Our infantry is superior in direct combat. Once we have soldiers on the ground, we will regain control. The dropships descended again, this time with heavy fighter escort. They landed outside major cities away from anti-aircraft batteries. Thousands of Zeltharian soldiers emerged, their plasma rifles ready, their armor gleaming. They marched toward the cities in perfect formation. Their tactics were flawless. Their coordination was machine-like. They had conquered dozens of worlds exactly this way, but they had never fought humans on the ground before. In Seattle, Sergeant Lisa Grant watched the aliens approach through her rifle scope. She was hidden in the ruins of a collapsed building with 9 other soldiers. They had been there for 3 hours, waiting. "Remember the plan?" she whispered. "Let them get close. Hit hard, then disappear. We're not trying to win a battle. We're trying to make them afraid." The aliens reached the street below. They moved cautiously but confidently. Their sensors swept the area. Their weapons were ready. They were prepared for resistance. They were not prepared for what came next. Lisa triggered the explosives buried under the street. The blast tore through the alien formation, throwing soldiers through the air. Before they could recover, her squad opened fire from 4 different positions. Not at the aliens' armor, which was too strong. At the joints. At the visors. At the gaps where flexibility was built in. 3 aliens went down. The rest scattered, taking cover behind vehicles and walls. They returned fire, their plasma bolts turning the ruins to molten slag. But Lisa's squad was already gone. They had retreat routes planned. They moved through the sewers and back alleys, leaving no trace except the dead aliens in the street. 10 minutes later, another alien squad reached a different intersection. Different soldiers ambushed them. Same results. The Zeltharians were fighting ghosts, enemies who struck and vanished, who knew every inch of their own cities, who had no honor and no fairness, only a burning desire to win at any cost. By nightfall, the Zeltharians held no ground. They had lost hundreds of soldiers, and they had accomplished nothing except learning one terrible truth. Earth was not going to be an easy victory. It might not be a victory at all. The Zeltharian fleet jumped away from Earth in the middle of the night. Their remaining ships burned hard for the outer system, running from an enemy that had been supposed to surrender in hours. They left behind thousands of dead soldiers, hundreds of destroyed ships, and enough advanced technology to change human civilization forever. General Marcus Hayes stood on the roof of the Pentagon, watching the last alien ships disappear into streaks of light. Around him, the ruins of Washington smoldered. But the city still stood. Earth still stood. Humanity had survived. President Catherine Wells joined him on the roof. She looked tired. They all looked tired. "But they were alive. Is it really over?" she asked. "For now," Marcus replied. "But they will tell others about us. About what happened here. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. Then we build," Catherine said simply. "We rebuild our cities. We study their technology, and we make sure nobody ever catches us unprepared again." In the days that followed, the full scope of the victory became clear. The aliens had lost nearly 70% of their invasion force. Earth had captured dozens of intact ships, hundreds of weapons, and countless pieces of technology that human scientists immediately began studying. Dr. Henry Park and Dr. Claire Murphy led the research effort. They worked in a new facility built specifically to understand alien technology. Around them, the brightest minds from every nation collaborated, sharing knowledge freely for the first time in human history. "This is incredible," Claire said, examining an alien power core. "This single device could power an entire city for years. If we can understand how it works, we can solve the energy crisis." "Look at this," Henry added, pulling up schematics on his computer. "They're faster than light drive. It bends space itself. We always theorized it was possible, but they actually built it. If we can replicate this, we can reach the stars," Claire finished. President Wells addressed the United Nations 3 weeks after the invasion ended. Representatives from every nation gathered, many appearing by video link because travel was still difficult with so many damaged cities. "We faced extinction," Catherine said, "and we survived because we fought together. Every nation, every person. We put aside our differences because we had no choice. I propose we do not go back to the old ways. I propose we stay united, because the universe is bigger than we thought, and we cannot face it divided." The response was not immediate. Nations had fought each other for thousands of years. Old hatreds did not disappear overnight, but slowly agreements were reached. Technology would be shared. Military forces would coordinate. Resources would be distributed to rebuild the damaged cities. It was not perfect. It was messy and complicated and full of arguments. But it was progress. Real progress. The kind that only happens when people realize they need each other to survive. Construction began on humanity's first true warship. It was built in orbit, using a combination of human engineering and alien technology. Workers from 50 nations contributed to its construction. Scientists from 100 universities designed its systems. They named it the Defiance. 6 months after the invasion, the ship was complete. It was not as large as the Zeltharian dreadnoughts, but it was fast, heavily armed, and carried the best technology Earth could build. Captain Lisa Grant stood on the bridge, promoted after her actions during the war. Around her, crew members from 20 different nations worked at their stations. They had trained together for months, learning to operate the hybrid human-alien systems. "All systems are ready, Captain," reported Lieutenant Kevin Brooks from the helm. He had requested a transfer from the Air Force to be part of the first space crew. "Engineering reports optimal power levels," added Chief Engineer Jake Matthews, who had left the Army to help build Earth's space fleet. Lisa looked out at the stars through the main view screen. Somewhere out there, the Zeltharian Empire was watching Earth, wondering if the humans would stay on their planet or venture out into the galaxy. "Take us out," Lisa ordered. "Let us show them what we can do." The Defiance's engines ignited. The ship accelerated smoothly, leaving Earth orbit behind. It was not just a warship. It was a statement. Humanity was no longer confined to one planet. They were going to explore, to learn, to meet other species on equal terms, and if necessary, to fight. The ship's first mission was simple. Travel to the edge of the solar system, map the nearby star systems, look for signs of other civilizations. But everyone knew the real purpose. They were showing the galaxy that Earth could reach out now, that humanity could go anywhere, that the species that had defeated the Zeltharians was not going to hide in fear. On the Zeltharian homeworld, Commander Vexthor filed his final report. He had been demoted after the failed invasion. He was no longer allowed to command fleets. But they still wanted his insights on Earth. He sat in a small office, writing his analysis of what had gone wrong. At the end, he added a personal note that he knew would be distributed throughout the Zeltharian Empire and beyond. "We believed humans were primitive because their technology was less advanced than ours. This was our fundamental mistake. Technology is not the measure of a species. We should have looked at their history. They have been fighting wars for their entire existence. They have developed strategies and tactics over thousands of years. They are natural hunters who evolved by competing with other predators on a dangerous world." He paused, thinking about the battles he had witnessed. The human pilot who sacrificed himself to take down a ship. The soldiers who fought with rocks when their ammunition ran out. The scientists who reversed engineered alien technology in days. They adapted faster than any species we have encountered. They coordinated without technology. They fought with creativity we could not predict. And they did all of this while still divided into hundreds of competing nations. Now they are united. Now they have our technology. I cannot imagine what they will become. He finished the report with a simple recommendation. "Do not attack Earth again. If we return, it should be as friends offering trade and cooperation. Because we cannot defeat them as enemies. I believe this with complete certainty. The humans are not prey. They are apex predators, and we awakened them to the existence of the galaxy." The report was filed and distributed. Across the Zeltharian Empire, military leaders read it. Many dismissed it as the excuses of a failed commander, but some took it seriously. They began preparing for a future where Earth was not a target, but a potential ally or rival. Other species heard about the invasion too. The news spread through the galaxy. A primitive world had defeated the Zeltharian Empire. It seemed impossible. Some thought it was propaganda. Others sent scouts to observe Earth from a distance. What they saw confirmed the reports. Humans were building ships, establishing orbital stations, spreading throughout their solar system with incredible speed. In just months, they had gone from barely space-worthy to a legitimate spacefaring civilization. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. Cities were rebuilt, families mourned their dead, but something had changed fundamentally. Humans had always believed they might be alone in the universe. Now they knew they were not. And they knew the universe could be dangerous. Schools began teaching alien languages recovered from the Zeltharian computers. Universities offered degrees in xenotechnology. Military academies trained officers in space combat. The entire planet was preparing for a future among the stars. Private Chris Jenkins, who had become famous for his desperate last stand during the war, spoke at a memorial service for the fallen. Millions watched the speech broadcast worldwide. "We lost people we loved," he said simply. "Friends, family, neighbors, they died defending Earth, defending us. We cannot bring them back, but we can honor them. We honor them by making sure their sacrifice meant something, by building a future worth their lives, by being ready if danger comes again, and by exploring the universe they saved." The speech was simple. Chris was not a great speaker, but his words resonated because they were honest. Humanity had paid a terrible price for survival. Now they had to make that price worthwhile. The Defiance completed its first mission successfully. It mapped 12 nearby star systems. It detected signs of other civilizations. It returned to Earth with data that would take years to fully analyze. But more importantly, it proved that humans could travel the stars. Other ships were already under construction. Exploration vessels, transport ships, and yes, more warships, because humanity had learned a hard lesson. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Captain Lisa Grant submitted her mission report to Fleet Command. At the end, she added a personal note. "The galaxy is vast. We have only seen a tiny fraction of it. There are thousands of species out there. Some might be friends, some might be enemies. But we are ready. We survived the Zeltharians. We can survive anything." She was right. Humanity had faced extinction and prevailed. They had fought with courage, intelligence, and sheer stubborn determination. They had adapted and overcome impossible odds, and now they were going to the stars, not as victims, not as conquerors, but as equals, as explorers, as survivors who refused to quit. The universe was about to meet humanity, and the universe was going to learn what the Zeltharians had learned, that humans were tougher, smarter, and more dangerous than anyone expected. The Zeltharian soldiers did not understand what was happening to them. They had trained for years. Their armor could withstand plasma fire. Their weapons could melt through steel. Their tactics had won 1,000 battles across 47 worlds. But nothing in their training had prepared them for fighting humans on human territory. Sergeant Lisa Grant led her squad. Through the underground tunnels beneath Seattle, they knew every passage, every exit, every place where they could hide or attack or escape. The city was their home. They had grown up in these streets. "Next target is 3 blocks north," she told her team. 10 aliens moving in standard formation. We hit them from the parking garage. Corporal Jake Matthews checked his rifle. "Same as last time?" "Same as last time," Lisa confirmed. "Except this time we leave the middle of the street clear. Let them think it's safe." The squad moved into position. They were tired. They had been fighting for 3 days with almost no sleep. But they kept going because stopping meant dying. And dying meant their families would be next. The Zeltharian squad appeared right on schedule. They marched down the street in perfect formation, their sensors scanning for threats. They had learned to be more careful after losing so many soldiers. They checked rooftops. They watched windows. They scanned for underground activity, but they missed the parking garage. It was just a normal structure. Nothing threatening. Nothing suspicious. Lisa waited until the aliens were directly below. Then she kicked over a barrel filled with gasoline and fertilizer and nails. It tumbled down 5 floors and landed in the middle of the alien formation. The explosion was not sophisticated. It was not high-tech. It was a bomb that humans had been making for hundreds of years using materials you could buy at any store. But it worked. The blast killed 4 aliens instantly. 2 more went down with damaged armor. The rest scattered, trying to find cover. Lisa's squad opened fire, not aiming for killing shots, aiming for the legs, for the joints, making the aliens slow, making them vulnerable. One alien made it to cover. Jake shot out the wall he was hiding behind. The concrete exploded and the alien fell. Another tried to run. Lisa shot the ground in front of him, making him trip over the crater. Her team finished him before he could stand 30 seconds. 10 dead aliens, 0 human casualties. Then Lisa's squad vanished into the tunnels before reinforcements could arrive. This was not war the way the Zeltharians understood it. There were no front lines, no honorable combat, no rules. The humans hit from nowhere and disappeared like smoke. They used the entire city as a weapon. Buildings became traps, streets became killing zones. Every corner could hide an ambush. In London, soldiers used the subway system to move around unseen. They would appear on one side of the city, attack and reappear miles away before the aliens could respond. In Cairo, fighters used mirrors and reflective surfaces to bounce the aliens' own plasma fire back at them. The Zeltharians learned to be careful about shooting in cities with lots of glass. In Tokyo, defenders created elaborate mazes of barriers and debris, leading alien patrols into dead ends where they could be surrounded and destroyed. The humans fought dirty. They fought smart. And they fought with a level of creativity that the Zeltharian computers could not predict or counter. Commander Vexthor watched his forces bleed away. 20 soldiers lost, 50, 100, 200. The numbers climbed every hour. And for what? His forces had not captured a single city. They had not secured a single objective. They were simply dying in the streets, ambushed by an enemy they could never pin down. The humans refused to fight properly, his second officer complained. They hide like cowards. They use civilians as shields. They have no honor. They have survival. Vexthor corrected quietly. And they are very good at it. Perhaps too good. Kirix brought up a tactical map. Red marks showed where Zeltharian soldiers had died. There were hundreds of marks across dozens of cities. A pattern was emerging. The humans were not fighting randomly. They were coordinating somehow despite the chaos. How are they organizing this? Kirix wondered. Their communications are primitive. We can jam their radio signals. We can disrupt their satellites. Yet they still coordinate perfectly. Because they are not coordinating through technology alone, Vexthor said. They are using runners, written messages, even hand signals. They fight the way their ancestors fought thousands of years ago. And it works because we have forgotten how to fight that way. The ground war was becoming a nightmare, but the Zeltharians still held one advantage. Their technology was far superior. If human scientists could not find a way to counter it, Earth would eventually fall through simple attrition. Deep below Colorado, in a military research facility that had survived the initial assault, Dr. Henry Park worked without sleep. Around him, other scientists did the same. They had pieces of destroyed alien technology spread across dozens of tables. Weapons, armor, communication devices, ship fragments. There has to be a weakness, Henry muttered to himself. Everything has a weakness. Dr. Claire Murphy looked up from her workstation. She was examining a piece of alien electronics, trying to understand how it worked. The technology was incredibly advanced, but it followed logical principles. Physics was physics no matter where in the universe you came from. Henry, look at this, Claire said suddenly. He came over to her station. She was running energy through the alien circuit board, watching how it responded. See that? Claire pointed to a specific pattern. The whole system is connected through quantum entanglement. Every piece of alien tech is linked to every other piece. That is how they coordinate so perfectly. That is how their shields work together. That is how they communicate faster than light. Henry felt his heart race. If they're all connected, then they all share the same vulnerability, Claire finished. If we can disrupt the quantum field at the right frequency, we can blind them, Henry said. We can cut off their coordination. We can drop their shields. They worked for 3 days straight. Other scientists joined them. They tested frequencies. They built prototypes. They failed a dozen times. But slowly, they began to understand the alien technology. On the 4th day, they had a working device. It was crude. It was bulky. But it generated a quantum disruption field that should, in theory, interfere with all Zeltharian technology within range. Henry picked up the phone to call General Marcus Hayes. Sir, we have something. It is not perfect. It might not work. But if it does, we have a chance, Marcus finished. How long to build more of these devices? We can have 50 units ready in 24 hours. 148 hours. Build them, Marcus ordered. Build as many as you can. And get ready to deploy them everywhere at once. We are going to hit the aliens with everything we have got, and this time we are going to hurt them. Across the planet, human forces prepared for a coordinated counterattack. Every soldier who could fight was given a position. Every pilot was briefed. Every ship was loaded with weapons. They had been on the defensive for days. They had been bleeding and dying and barely holding on. But humans were good at one thing above all others. They were good at adapting, and they had just adapted to a whole new level. The quantum disruptors were distributed to military bases around the world. Engineers worked around the clock to set them up. Scientists double-checked the calculations. Soldiers loaded their weapons and prepared to fight. 0 hour was set for dawn, when the sun came up. The Zeltharians were about to discover that invading Earth had been the biggest mistake in their empire's history. Lisa Grant sat in the ruins of a coffee shop in Seattle, cleaning her rifle. Around her, her squad did the same. They had been fighting for 5 days. They were exhausted. They were running low on ammunition. They had lost friends, but they had not given up. And they were not going to give up. Because that was what humans did. They endured. They persisted. They survived. Orders just came through, Jake said, reading a message on a portable radio. Big attack coming at dawn. Something about disrupting alien tech. We are supposed to hit them hard when the signal comes. Lisa smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator who had been defending her territory and was finally ready to go on the hunt. Good, she said. I am tired of running. Let us make these aliens regret coming here. The Zeltharian fleet appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. There were no warnings, no signals, just massive ships that suddenly blocked out the sun over major cities across the planet. Commander Vexithor stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue and green world below. He had done this 47 times before. 47 worlds had surrendered to the Zeltharian Empire. Earth would be number 48. Status report, he ordered. His tactical officer, Kirix, pulled up the data on the main screen. The humans have basic nuclear technology. Their fastest ships use chemical fuel. Their weapons are mostly metal projectiles fired by explosions. No energy shields. No plasma weapons. No quantum communication. Vexthor nodded slowly. This would be easier than most conquests. The humans were barely spaceworthy. They had not even colonized their own moon permanently. They were divided into hundreds of separate nations that fought among themselves. They would crumble quickly. Scan for military installations, Vexthor said. The sensors swept across the planet. Thousands of military bases appeared on the screen. Missile silos, naval fleets, air force stations, tank divisions. It looked impressive until you realized what you were looking at. They still use pilots in their aircraft, Kirix said with something like pity in his voice. Physical pilots. In physical cockpits. How primitive, another officer laughed. Their largest weapons are nuclear bombs. We had those 3,000 years ago. Vexthor did not join in the laughter. He had learned not to underestimate any species, no matter how backward they seemed. But the evidence was clear. Earth would fall within days, maybe hours. Open a communication channel to the planet. All frequencies. I want every human to hear this. The communication officer worked for a moment, then nodded. Channel open, Commander. Vexthor spoke clearly. People of Earth, I am Commander Vexthor of the Zeltharian Empire. Your planet is now under our control. You have one of your hours to surrender. Lay down your weapons. Accept our rule. If you comply, you will be treated fairly. If you resist, your cities will be destroyed. You have 1 hour. Choose wisely. The message was broadcast in every human language. It played on television screens. It interrupted radio programs. It appeared on computer monitors and phones. Every human on Earth heard the same message at the same time. In the Pentagon, deep below the ground in Washington, D.C., General Marcus Hayes listened to the alien message. Around him, dozens of military officers and government officials stood in shocked silence. Sir, what are our orders? Asked Colonel Danny Price. Marcus looked at the screen showing the alien ships. They were huge. Each one was the size of a city. Their weapons could probably level entire countries. But Marcus had not spent 30 years in the military to surrender at the first sign of trouble. "Get me the president," he said calmly. "President Catherine." Wells was already in the secure bunker below the White House. She appeared on the video screen, her face serious but composed. "General Hayes," she said. "Recommendations?" "We fight," Marcus said simply. There was silence in both rooms. Everyone knew what that meant. Humanity had never faced an alien threat before. They had no idea what they were up against. But they knew one thing for certain. Humans did not give up easily. "I agree," Catherine said. "Send the order to all military installations worldwide. No surrender. We fight." Marcus turned to his staff. "You heard the president. Send the message. Full mobilization. Every base, every ship, every plane, every soldier. We go to war." Around the world the message spread. In Russia, General Petrov ordered his missile silos to prepare for launch. In China, Admiral Zhou moved his naval fleet into position. In France, the Air Force scrambled every fighter jet they had. In India, tank divisions rolled toward defensive positions, but it was not just the military that responded. In homes and offices, on streets and in schools, ordinary people heard the message. And they made a choice. In New York, firefighter Jake Morrison heard the alien message on his truck radio. He looked at his crew. "We have families," he said. "We have homes. Nobody is taking that from us." In Tokyo, teacher Yuki Tanaka stood in front of her students. They looked scared. She smiled at them. "We will protect you," she said. "All of us. Together." In London, factory worker Paul Hughes walked out of his shift and straight to the nearest military recruitment center. The line was already around the block. The hour passed. Vexthor waited for the surrender message. It did not come. Instead, his sensors detected activity all across the planet. Missile silos were opening. Ships were moving. Aircraft were taking off. The humans were preparing for war. "Foolish," Vexthor muttered. "Send the message to all ships. Begin the assault. Target their military bases first. Show them the cost of resistance." The Zeltharian fleet descended. 50 massive warships dropped through the atmosphere, their plasma weapons charging. They headed for the largest military installations first: Moscow, Beijing, Washington, London, Tokyo, Delhi. In his fighter jet above Washington, Lieutenant Kevin Brooks checked his weapons. His missiles were ready. His guns were loaded. He knew they probably would not do much against alien shields and armor, but he was going to try anyway. "All squadrons, this is Hawk 7, he said into his radio. "Stay tight. Watch each other's backs, and remember they might have better tech, but we have something they don't." "What's that, Hawk 7? Another pilot asked. Kevin smiled grimly. "We're fighting for our home. They're just here to conquer another planet. Let's show them the difference." The alien ships opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked down from the sky, hitting military bases with devastating force. Explosions ripped through buildings. Fires spread, alarms screamed, but the humans fired back. Thousands of missiles launched from the ground. Fighter jets swarmed the alien ships like angry hornets. Naval vessels offshore fired everything they had. Tank divisions aimed their guns at the descending ships. Most of the human weapons bounced harmlessly off the alien shields. The missiles exploded against invisible barriers. The bullets sparked and fell away. The shells deflected into the sky, but not all of them. Here and there, a missile got through. A lucky shot found a weak point. A concentrated barrage overwhelmed a shield for just a moment. The first alien fighter went down over the Atlantic Ocean. Then another crashed in the forests of Germany. A third fell burning into the desert outside Cairo. On his flagship, Vexthor watched the tactical display with growing concern. He had expected to lose a few ships. That was normal in any invasion. But he had lost 12 fighters in the first 20 minutes. Against an enemy with primitive weapons, how are they doing this? He demanded. Kirik studied the combat data. Commander, the humans are adapting. They are learning our shield patterns. They are timing their attacks. They are coordinating across vast distances despite having only radio communication. Vexthor felt a cold sensation in his stomach. He had studied human history during the flight to Earth. He knew they were good at war. They had been fighting each other for thousands of years, but he had assumed their primitive technology would negate their experience. He was beginning to realize he had made a mistake. All ships, maintain altitude, he ordered. Do not descend below 10,000 meters. Deploy fighters for close combat, and increase shield strength to maximum. The battle was just beginning. And already the easy victory Vexthor had expected was slipping away.